Have you ever wanted to lay down, relax, and watch something on cable? No, you don't, and if you do, you're either an old-ass man or someone in desperate need to waste your money. No, you go to Netflix, or Hulu, or Disney Plus, or whatever streaming services are available. Today's video won't be about the rise of streaming over cable, perhaps another time. But this video is about the media we watch, and how the 90% are controlled and owned by the top 6%. Netflix is a big player in the game, bringing in $25 billion a year, and has a strong 210 million members, or a bit over 2% of the planet. That's rather a big deal. Hulu, which a lot of people think is one of the largest competitors to Netflix, they brought in $4.5 billion in 2020, and they're rising exponentially. What people don't realize is that Hulu has a parent company, Capitalism at its finest. And honestly, I was actually really surprised about what company the parent company was. Disney. I'm not really surprised that Disney could ever own such a company. I'm just more surprised that Disney doesn't really advertise that it owns Hulu. Anyway, Disney. We all know Disney is a large, it's a large shithole. How big is it? Well, chances are you're into superhero films, or sci-fi films, or you watch the news, or the sports. Disney is fucking huge in those regards. Disney owns Marvel. The comic company, the blockbuster hit company, the big Avengers company, them. They also own ESPN, which is a cable sports channel, and ESPN too. They own Lucasfilms, Pixar, Fox, 21st Century Fox, the History Channel, that explains it, ABC, and A&E. Yeah, they're huge. But let's not forget about some other giants. Comcast. Not many people know about Comcast, but I'm willing to bet you've heard of what they own. First of all, we're going to head in first in this one. NBC. Yeah, the National Broadcast Channel. They own that. What else do they own? Xfinity, Universal Pictures, Peacock, DreamWorks, Illumination, Telemundo, CNBC, and... that's actually... Moving on, we got Viacom CBS. Yeah, no, fuck that. We're just going CBS. CBS, also known as the Columbia Broadcasting System, is a television network that owns Paramount. Good on them. Paramount Plus is actually their newest streaming service. Originally it was going to be called CBS All Access, but they decided to change it. CBS also owns Nickelodeon, which I was actually really surprised to figure out. But it explains why a lot of Nickelodeon shows are on Paramount Plus. They also own Showtime, MTV, and Comedy Central. Next on our list is Warner Brothers, or Warner Media. Let's get the obvious out of the way. DC. That's basically the biggest one they have. Go, Voodoo, Adult Swim, Toonami, Boomerang Network, and Cartoon Network. Now, we may all just look at this and think, oh wow, that's neat. And overall, yeah, it doesn't affect that much of your life. The only major thing is that you might have to pay a streaming service to view some of this stuff. Which is just good old capitalism in the free market, whatever. And, if I'm gonna be real here, I fucking hate Disney. Can't stand that goddamn company. But even I realize that it doesn't really matter either way. But this isn't the type of media that we should be so worried about.
The mask war is refusing to go away even as COVID cases and deaths surge in places where the rhetoric is most heated.
Outcomes can be far worse. At least 7,800 breakthrough hospitalizations and 1,800 deaths have been reported to date. That's out of what NBC estimates is more than 290,000 breakthrough cases across the U.S.
The situation in Afghanistan is so bad and so humiliating for the United States that it's easy to forget the Biden administration is control of this country as well.
But it's that humanitarian crisis that should really be driving American opinions. As a logistical matter, this has been a disaster.
What was going on that none of Biden's top cabinet officials were with him at that pivotal time?
Now this right here, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we should be worried about. Now before I get into this, don't worry, I won't be going out and calling all of the mainstream media fake news. Yeah, I cringe whenever I hear someone use that phrase, fake news. But you gotta realize that, yeah, the larger news companies, like CNN, Fox, they do in fact have some sort of a small agenda, although small. it's not as big as people like to make it out to be. Now, like I said, we hear CNN and Fox News all the time, and they are the biggest annoyances out of anyone that just wants to read up on some news. Politically, these two networks are constantly at each other. CNN is more left-wing, while Fox News is more right-wing. So let's dive into CNN. CNN is, well, huge. Really huge. But there's gotta be a parent company. There always is. That would be Turner Broadcasting System. Who owns Turner Broadcasting System? Warner Media. Who owns that? AT&T. In fact, AT&T used to be so huge, the Supreme Court had to curb their growth several times and break up the company. But every time, AT&T just kept on growing. Fox News. Who owns Fox News? Well, Fox News is owned by News Corp. It's a bit different than the Fox that Disney owns. Another news company, Wall Street Journal. News Corp also owns them. News Corp also owns a bunch of foreign news agencies. News Corp also owns a bunch of foreign news agencies, mostly in the United Kingdom and Australia. And to move on to our last media type, search engines. Because it's, it's good to know if you browse the interwebs, or I guess if you fucking use the internet in any shape or form, obviously the giants we know of are Google, Bing, Yahoo, and DuckDuckGo. Google being obviously the largest, and so far the internet's best choice. So, what does Google own exactly? Well, there's YouTube, the largest video sharing platform. There's also Nest, home security. There's Fitbit, and actually quite a bit more. Google obviously has a parent company. Every company has a parent company, even some parent companies. That would be Alphabet Incorporated. They own a few other stuff, but nothing as big as Google. Next up is Bing. Most people know Bing is behind Google when it comes to users. Most people also know the tech giant Microsoft owns Bing. Microsoft owns a shitload of other stuff, like Windows, Xbox, Skype, GitHub, LinkedIn, VCO, and much more. Yahoo is actually owned by Verizon. And yeah, that's actually kind of it. DuckDuckGo is owned by, DuckFuckGo. So I guess to kind of wrap up this bullshit charade, a lot of what you watch, listen to, and even follow is the result of the free market capitalist society that we all live in. In most cases, this isn't a bad thing. Companies don't just form and hold on to a monopoly forever. Even the media giant that is Disney may seem like they own a lot, and yeah, for the most part, they do. But it's not gonna stay that way forever. Companies are not formed to gain more power, they're formed to gain more money, more capital, whatever that can fit in the big man's pockets. And for anyone that's worried about an ever-growing corporation and fears their powers of creating a huge monopoly, just know that it is actually very difficult to hold on to a monopoly. If you don't know what a monopoly is, it's where a company owns the majority of something. Typically, this could be bad for the average middle-class worker. Since the company owns the majority of something, they can set the prices to it whatever they want, because they own the majority of that thing. Overall, the media industry is huge. There's a lot of alternatives. But the deeper you look into it, the more you realize that it really isn't all that different. Especially when 6 giant mass media companies, Disney, AT&T, CBS, News Corp, Viacom, and Comcast, own and control over 90% of all media you see. I hope this gave you some insight in the media industry and how it truly operates. This is the thickest of penguins, signing out.